Yes, I'm sure you are wondering what I'm doing here at this time. I have a surprise for you. I have a big surprise for you. This is meant to be a surprise. Sorry, I'm done now. The internet had better behave. Just wait a minute. We'll be with you. It's pausing. Why is it pausing? The internet. I'm doing very well, thank you all. I can see Nikki Ebony, our regulars have joined already. Yes, this is meant to be a surprise, and it's by special demands. I need to wipe my face. We have been busy working here. Today is another busy day. So, in a minute, you will see my special guest, and then you will know why we are back here. Thank you. It's not easy to be a man. We keep working. All the people waving, thank you so much. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm trying to locate my special guest. Then you will know why. If my guest is in, please make a request, because I'm searching and I can't see him yet. Okay. Not for decoration. I can see Overcome Media from America. Thank you so much. You woke up so early. Madam Dupe Amusha. Ekason, how are you? I'm still searching. Why are you freezing, this guy? Ayobami, how are you? I'm waiting. I haven't seen a request yet from my very, very, very distinguished personality. Wow. We're set for another interesting session today. I haven't seen a request yet, so we're waiting. Madam Fadeke, ìyàwó ọ̀rẹ́ mi, how are you? How is London today? Oh, Baba Agbalagba ńkọ́? I'm happy you're able to join us. It seems every Saturday now, I have to bring a special guest in the afternoon. We need to speak to our legends. There is so much to learn from our past. If you don't know your past, sometimes you're not likely to know where you are headed or why we are where we are. So we need to bring them and make sure we get as much information as we can from them. So this is the task I have assigned to myself. It's a major, major task. Okay, I think we are almost okay now. Thank you for your patience. Daddy, Good afternoon, Daddy.
Good afternoon.
How are you today, sir?
Not fine, not too fine.
I hope
Not
you. I
merely
hope,
fine,
sir.
but really fine. Although I'm very sad that I lost 4 good friends.
You
In the
lost
last,
4 good friends.
yes,
What happened, Daddy?
my brother, Bode Akinlele, my
Yes.
my brother, uh, I cannot describe this one, Adetunji Unisiga, who helped me to build this office, which I'm talking from. And
Wow.
partly with his own money. And then also I lost Lake Henry.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I lost Lake Henry,
Wow.
apart from Ajimabi and Achikenjide.
May their souls rest in peace, sir.
In
Yeah,
Ibadan.
I can see that it is clearly devastating.
It was
Um,
persistent and frightening.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation once again. Exactly a week after we last spoke. Uh, it's by popular demand. A lot of people requested that you still have so much to give and that we might as well take it now for posterity. We are recording you live today on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And your last interview has inspired us to now take a firm decision that we must get our giants who are still with us. We must get every one of them to leave something behind for the young ones. It's a shame that I didn't have this opportunity with Chief Dende Fernandez before he left us. We didn't have this opportunity with Chief Bode Akindele, your good friend, the Parakoyi, though we were able to have a recording of him with Ovation magazine, but that's in print. Audiovisual is much more important. And since that technology is now available, I don't have to come to your house before I talk to you. So we can talk from any part of the world. I can talk to you even in your bedroom if you decide that you want to speak to us in the bedroom. So I want to thank you, sir, for joining us on this platform once again. So let us start from your friends. Since you just mentioned them, I would like you to talk about Chief Bode Akindele and what he meant, not just to the people of Ibadan, but to the people of Nigeria and the entire world.
Chief Bode Akindele was made the Parakoyi of Ibadan land. His journey was very long. He started business in a very humble way. He had a hotel at Okebola, and that hotel was closed down. It was a very popular hotel. It was closed down. So he disappeared for a while, and when he returned, when he resurrected, he became a big businessman. He went into beer, soft drinks. He went into a hospital running, which you see on Lagos Road, although it's unfortunately placed near a quarry. Every time there's a bang in the quarry, you know, anybody with high blood pressure gets shaken up. And we racked our brain. We couldn't solve the problem because we wanted to know whether the hospital got there first or the quarry. Bode Akindele was a versatile man, and he was intrepid. He did not fear going to Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, all those places to do business. Kigali was we warned him that he might not come back alive. He always laughed at us. He has a very funny look. If you ask him to do something for you, he will look at you, and laugh at you first. Or he might frown. And then he will do it. Then you ask him to do it, and he is very close to our family. His mother, Mama Adediba, and my mother, Tejumola, they were the two lionesses of Ibadan. They were the two lionesses. They were feared more than loved. So my mother used to stay also with him. He gave my mother a house, and like a country house, and made everything available to him. Any problem that arose, whether in England or the United States, he solved it for us. If he couldn't solve it, he will summon wise members of the clergy, like Archbishop Ladibolu, Archbishop the Catholic, the prelate, Makinde, not the same Makinde, but they are relatives. And these are very thorough and honest people. And there was a joke recently when the newspaper Tribune misquoted prelate Makinde. They printed Pilate Makinde, reminding one of Pontius Pilate.
Pilate. Instead of private.
Instead of private, they wrote Pilate. And the man is, they are very, very reliable, very honest, and Bode Akindele was just a wonder. We were shocked the way he died. He died at 88, but he was to us a young man. He was very strict with us who are close to him, strict with his children, and he would laugh at anything. He had two wives, and this was a matter of debate for a long time, but it was accepted by the Methodist Church. If you read Professor Bolanle Awe's latest book, you'll find the differences between the Anglican and the Methodists. He is very, very interesting. He did a lot of church planting. In Malomaja area, in Crane area. He did a lot of church planting, and not knowing that he was going soon, he ordered that Methodist Agbeni and one other church be repented, as if for his own ceremony. He was a great man. He was a great man.
Fantastic. Yes.
Fantastic man.
I would like you to also have a few words about the man who built your office, the late Adetunji.
Adetunji is a man one just cannot find adequate words to describe. He was always inspired. I wish you could ask Obasanjo to talk about Adetunji, because he was a common friend of ours. And he was not an ordinary friend. Adetunji got an honorary degree and fellowship from the University of Ibadan. But Adetunji started from a very, 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 very humble beginning. He was a chauffeur, a driver in the NTC. He was a driver. And he rose to the top. He rose to the top and did a lot of silent philanthropic work. When I was putting up this dual office building, I gave it to a relative who messed it up. So he broke down the thing and rebuilt it. The only living house I have, I stalled on it several times. So Adetunji took somebody who claimed to be a philanthropic there, who said he would also help. But the man didn't help. And Adetunji burst into tears and used 2,680 pounds of his own private money. Of his own money to complete the house at Ikolaba is unbelievable. Now he was, Adetunji had many friends. One of them was the inimitable Justice Ogundare, M.E. Ogundare, the Ekiti man, who gave the Supreme Court judgment on the extent of the littoral states. Ogundare, were it not for Ogundare, the present Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, Ọba Adéyẹmí III, OMOLOLU Biyere, would not have been Aláàfin. And Aláàfin had been, and Aláàfin Ládépò had been fraudulently appointed as a result of a fraudulent commission of inquiry and a fraudulent white paper and so on. The paper was called Dele report. To the extent there were 11 candidates, Dele report was to work to the answer that there was only one. And the page is about 150 pages of absolute nonsense, and which I reviewed. The filling of the vacancy of the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ consumed 4 commissioners. The first commissioner was B.A. Ajayi from Ekiti, Ikere. The second commissioner was, for a brief period, Kola Balogun of Otan Igbaju. The third commissioner was Lamuye of Iwo fame. You know, the Lamuyes ruled Oyo, they ruled Iwo for about 200 years, non-stop. Then the fourth commissioner was my own self. And the General Adebayo was ordered by General Gawan to reshuffle the cabinet and put me, General Gawan always says, Victor OLUNLOYO, our troubleshooter, put him there, he will solve the problem. And I was the fourth commissioner. The vacancy arose on the 25th of January, 1968. The whole of 1968 expired. 1969 expired. 1970 expired before we got a new Aláàfin on the 14th of January, 1971, under my commissioner. It was a very tough battle. There were threats of assassination, all sorts of threats, and almost everything turned upside down.
Wow.
I remember one episode, I used some tactics, some delay tactics. For the first 3 months I was in that ministry, I never said a word about the Alaafin of your chieftaincy vacancy. I faced other things. But many people came from Oyo, some with charms. I remember General Obasanjo, he was the GOC. As a fellow woman, he came to visit me. And I escorted him downstairs. As I was coming back to my car, I escorted him downstairs. Actually, I summoned Obasanjo, not he summoned me. I summoned him for something very rascally that we both had done. And I put it on him that he did it. And he found out that I did it also. So, as I went back to Obasanjo, waving my way, these 7 men came into my office. So I asked them, oh, no, they were trying to get to my body. So I said, no, stay away, stay away. Still sit in that sitting room. As I put them in the sitting room, I locked them up. And I asked for security and other people to strip them naked to their plants.
Wow.
They found about 8 kinds of charms.
Wow.
So I was a very honest Ijebu man who was a head messenger, very, very knowledgeable in Yoruba folklore. So I asked him what those charms were. And the Baba said one was Ekwe, one was Agadagodo, one was Shigidi. There were 7 types of. So I asked them, what did you people want come to this ministry? They said it was for safety. I said, this is beyond safety. You are in trouble. So I got the Minister of Information to photograph them. Mr. Degun, a very gentleman, was my permanent secretary. He was from Ijebu-Ode, and his father was a pastor of the CAC. He was more than a pastor, he was a very gentleman. So, Mr. Degun said we should ignore that. So you don't ignore things like this. They have to be locked up. No, we stripped them naked before we could get all these things. And then we knew that it was serious business. We are still talking about Adetunji, but
Yes, sir.
Adetunji was building a house in Bodija. So I said, you don't only sell cigarettes, you also you are not a major distributor of cigarettes, you are also a builder. I said, yes, he builds with Awu Fisayo. He has a company with them. I said, I have a house which Lekan and Wole Itayo said I should build an office in case I grow old. on the probability that I grow old, that I might have some income. And then I said, Lekan, you have a little bit of money. You can sign in the bank. Wole, you don't have much money. If they come and they ask for their money, they will lock you up. So we joke. Anyway, we went to Oluwabodeni. Oluwabodeni taught us how to build houses. That you can use the land for
collateral.
And I had helped the this bank cooperative to get out of trouble when I had extra money in the science and technology. And they wanted to give me some compensation. I refused the compensation.
So
So
kickback.
it was a kickback. It was a good opportunity for them to help me. So I got hold of Chivala and I said, here, let's go to Chivanagurua. We need to borrow some money to repair your brother's house. He said, what? He followed me there. Onagurua said, but I have nothing to stand collateral. Onagurua said, oh, you don't need any collateral. Victor, your name is a collateral. You don't need any conveyance. It's a collateral. So, and you, you sign here, and Alande will collect, you collect the money, and Alande will sign. And Alande said, Malulu, o le pa o le madam lo, tembala wa owó yo. Mo ní owó ẹ̀yin lẹ́san, èmi mo gbowó mo sign ìwé. Ẹ̀yin lẹ́san wo fún bank. Owó yín mo ẹ̀yin lẹ́san tó bá sign ó béèrè lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀. Ó ní Malulu o le pa o. So we left the bank with the money in my kitty, and it was very interesting. What concerns Adetunji there is that Ogundare was a very reliable friend of Adetunji. He was a very good friend. And he wrote, in that Obileye report, which was about 150 pages, he wrote a minority report as the secretary of the commission. Ogundare, wherever he is in God's great paradise.
Amen.
Paradise. Ogundare, M.E. Ogundare, he did one thing. He wrote a minority report of 5 lines. When we debated the whole matter, we found that the 4 lines of Ogundare, 4 or 5 lines of Ogundare, that the whole exercise should be de novo, was more valuable than the 150 pages of the man who wrote the major report. So we threw the major report into the dustbin, and we accepted Ogundare on purely legal grounds. It's very simple to explain, and the matter was that the last commissioner for local government before the military was Fanikaude, Remi Fanikaude, the father of Femi. And the councils had been dissolved, and there were no councils, and therefore no competent councils in the sense of the Chief's Law, Cap 19 of those days, which became Cap 28 in the revised laws of the Western region.
Wow.
So that law was made on the 20th of June, 1957. It's the knockout. That is a knockout. Made from the inner brains of Awolowo and Rotimi Williams. For example, there's a passage that says, if a candidate is qualified but is not disqualified, he and is the only candidate, he shall be elected.
Wow.
If a candidate is qualified but not disqualified, you can be qualified and disqualified at the same time. And what did Awolowo and Rotimi Williams mean? You can be qualified by being from the right house, the house whose turn it is to provide candidates. And you can be disqualified by your conduct. If the person is a jailbird, he has been in prison, he's a certain, and under certain conditions, he will be disqualified by his conduct. although he's qualified by. And then, there was a case that was Ilara Mokin. At Ilara Mokin, we had an Oba called Solomon Ojopagogo. He was installed there because the Akure people were victimizing them. He was an ex-policeman. His mother was from Ilara Mokin, where our friend who sells, the old man who sells Prados and so on.
Yes. Baba Adeojo.
Baba Adeojo.
Adeojo.
That's where it comes from, Ilara Mokin. And that's where Major General Omajokun also came, who was my first student in mathematics in the University of Ibadan.
Wow.
Fortunately, I had two students. The other one was Tense, who was executed wrongly in the Dimkaku. He was later to be exonerated. So what happened was that Ogundare was very, very essential in getting this Alaafin. If he had not pointed out the nullity, and I consulted my own lawyers, and they taught me the case of McFoy versus UAC, the high trees case, and this, you cannot put something on nothing, it will not stand. That's the case of McFoy versus UAC, very famous, about nullity, about something, which you cannot just, you can't put something on nothing, it will not stand. Lord Denning died at 101. He got a first class in law in Oxford, went to war, and came back and got a first class in mathematics. So he's one. So he got a double first. And he was master of the rolls. He did not accept being promoted to the House of Lords and so on. Quickly. But their Supreme Court, which they have now, he remained there. So that was that Ogundare was building a house. Adetunji completed the house. Just as he completed mine. After Ogundare died, he completed the house. I was living, I am living, he completed my own house too. Then Samuel Asabia, a gentleman who had he was Asabia married a white woman who was teaching in Queen's School, and he was one of the best gentlemen you could ever meet. He was central bank deputy of the governor of central bank, like OTT. So he had the very good sense of opening a branch of First Bank in London, which has facilitated transactions between Nigeria and London. Asabia was a fine gentleman. He went to University of Exeter. He was very astute. He was Ministry of Finance in the Western region. And I got to know later that he recommended me, he and J.M. Akinola, for commissionership under Majekodunmi, and for commissionership also under Adebayo, because I did not know these people from Adam. And I was wondering how I came to be nominated. Asabia's father was a priest, he was one of the founders of the African Church. And he left a book on African churches with me to read and to keep. So I understood the philosophy of the African church. Now, Adetunji was a Muslim. Asabia was a Christian. He started building a church at Iduani for in memory of his father. He had merely reached foundation. Adetunji went there, completed the church, built the church, completed the church, absolutely quietly, nobody knew. Here was a Muslim building a church far away. The only person who has achieved something like that is an Ibadan man, 2 years junior to me in government college, and an ace swimmer, Professor Adeniji, in his Itaege area of Ibadan. He built a church and he built a mosque. He built mosque. And he was a professor of agribiology, and he stays directly opposite the second gate of UI. So you had extraordinary people like that. So that was Adetunji. Adetunji was not in politics. He always said one should get one big contract and leave politicians to their malversations. That politicians are notorious all over the world. But I said it's important. You see about this coronavirus, Churchill always said scientists were important, but they should be on top, not on top. That when you need scientists, call them, and not on top. But we have seen now, I have kept a book for about 3 or 4 years that Martin Rees, the president of the Royal Society, that says around 2020, there will be all these viruses covering the world, pandemics. You can't believe. The book is there. I will find it. You know, the first is from here to infinity. The second is this our final century?
So is this final century?
Yes, is this our final century? And these are people who are very potentials. I will show you the books now. I should. 2 black books. So those are people who left their memories in my mind.
Yes, I would want us to go to, if you find the books, I want us to go to Chief Lekare.
That is the gigantic task.
Today we have many names lined up, so we'll take them one by one.
He and I were from Kudeti. Kudeti. His mother is an Abodeni, and my father an OLUNLOYO. So these are the two families that dominate Kudeti. When we took the entrance exam to government college in 1947, there were 2,002 candidates. Lekanre was second. Demola Idowu, who went away for a long time and then came back and became editor of Sketch, a post far below his ability, was the editor of Sketch, was first. Lekanre was second. I was from Magan in Standard 5. I was the only Standard 5 student who got a scholarship. So we went into government college, and Lekan performed excellently well. They selected some of to go to the university. They took us there to see what the university was like, and it was very exciting because when the principal took us, 4 of us, including Lagunde, we a professor of what do you call it?
Okay, the books.
These are the books. These are the books.
Wow.
From Here to Infinity, Martin Rees.
From Here to Infinity.
From Here to Infinity, Martin Rees. And this one is this our final century?
Is this our final? That's by the same author?
By the same author, the president of the Royal Society, which you know is the president of the Royal Society, is like the president of the Academy of Sciences in Nigeria. And he made a very potentious thing about viruses and how in 2020 is the year he concentrated on that there will
and
be.
He published this book. How long, sir? Did he publish this book?
The two books, they are what you would like to know very well. They are based on the Radio 4, BBC Radio 4 Reef lectures, the annual Reef lectures, profile books. The first book is 2011.
Wow, 9 years ago.
Yes, he has been talking about H.G. Wells. And then the second book, which says something really must happen. The second book was published by William Heinemann, 2003.
Oh, that's even much longer.
Yes. No, it's very strange. 2003. So, with civilization survived the 21st century. In 2050, there will be serious disaster. Very serious, very serious. in 2050. People cannot say they don't know that there is going to be pandemic. Let me read from the back of this book.
So we failed to prepare for the future foretold.
Oh yes, the radio 4 Reef lectures were given in 2010 by the Astronomer Royal, Professor Martin Rees. This expanded version of the lectures describes the astonishing progress and prospects of 21st century science, emphasizing how this knowledge could transform our lives and help confront the challenges facing our increasingly crowded and interconnected world. First, pandemics, systems breakdowns, resource shortages, and environmental crisis. We are in one pandemic now. We are encouraged. We are the first pandemic that there are very, very many viruses. And I'm sorry to say, the Nigerian expert on virology left just a few weeks, 2 weeks or so. Tam David West.
Professor Tam David West, yes, he lived for so long in Ibadan.
Yes. And he had cancer and he died. And this thing became really global. And you see Spain alone in 1918 had 50 million, from Afe Babala's articles, 50 million victims. Martin Rees is professor of cosmology and astrophysics and master of Trinity College, Cambridge. Wow. He's the former president of the Royal Society and the Astronomer Royal. His awards include Bazan and Crawford Prizes, Einstein Award, and the World Cultural Council in 2011, and he was awarded the Templeton Prize. So this other book is terrifying, impressioned. And this book is not just a catalog of scare stories. You know, HIV virus that leads to AIDS was made in the laboratory. It's smallpox and one other virus. Since gene splicing and all this thing began, a professor in MIT created it, and he has some connection with China. So these things have been on since 1866. 1866, when H.G. Wells began to write. And you know, in those days, they were called science fiction. Planet of the Apes, all these things. But they are no longer fiction.
They are facts.
You look at how it knocked off a chief of staff, a governor, two virile businessmen. It knocked off. You know, Akinkunmi was famous in Ibadan, or notorious, if you wish, in elongating the life of Oba Gadi Odulana. He put him on a special regime that made him to live over 100. He says that if he keeps to that regime, and several people we thought that Obalana would die any day, any time, and they would start to drum in their houses, and
He refused to die. He refused to die.
He refused to die due to Akinfugbe's regime. The regime consists of what he will eat, when he will sleep, whether he goes to bed or not, what he will drink, what he will not drink. Many of these things are, and I knew him very well. We had so many connections. We both lived in Arimo. We attended St. Peter's School, Arimo, and we had the same birthday, 14th of April. He went to the army, he came back, he became a teacher. He contested the election in Ibadan on the platform of MPC. Can you imagine? He thrashed both the Action Group and the NCNC at Igboeleri Federal Constituency. When he got to the Federal House, he was nicknamed Malam Lana.
Wow.
He became the prime minister, and in his reshuffle he became a minister. So that was Adetunji. Adetunji also built houses for Obasanjo, for me, for Asabia, for Gundare, and he was a common friend. But the way he died was frightening. I did a senior brother who calls himself a junior brother. Obasanjo is a senior brother. He is a senior brother. And he was very close to my mother, because my mother is one of the human beings he has ever met who are able to plot the course of his life. She could see very far. When he was works, we said we wanted to get contract for Obasanjo. He said we are wasting our time. That's not the man's destination. When we was in Ibadan chiefs held a meeting that I should go to him, and after going to him, I should go to Gawan to make him governor of the Western region. He said he was not interested. My mother said we are wasting our time. Then my mother said, this man, with whom you are wasting your time, he's going to go to the second position in the country. And he went. My mother and I went and saw him. And very soon he will be in first position. And we went and saw him. He didn't know how it happened. You know, on that day, Dumuje was shot at. Dumuje, you remember? They saw a fat-bellied man. They thought it was Obasanjo, but it was Dumuje. So, Adetunji was very rare to us, and he did very many things for the University of Ibadan. And such men are rare. Such men are.
Sir, I am very, yes, sir. Okay, before we come back to Lekon Aresa, before we come back to Lekon Aresa, I am very, very greedy about your interview. When I told Benga this afternoon that I'm going live with Daddy again, he said, don't kill my daddy. I said, no, we are preserving Daddy's brain forever. Yeah. That's what we're doing on this platform. So even if we're not able to finish again today, we will continue again next week. I just want to tell you in advance that it's a very serious matter. So before we go back to Chief Lekon Aresa, there is something that I've always wanted to ask you. Do you have any knowledge of Bertrand Russell and Whitehead?
Yes, and I have a very good record of Bertrand Russell and Whitehead.
Yeah. And what was their contribution to mathematics?
Their condition,
Their
They are
contribution.
very interesting people. They wrote 300 in a book. Russell, whom I will recommend you to interview, Jibola Ogushola. He has read
Oh,
Russell very widely. Russell, I have about 8 or 10 books in my library on Russell. You see, Russell and Whitehead, they wanted to, you see, when you see physics, you see it contains mathematics. When you see mathematics, you see it contains geometry, algebra, trigonometry. Eventually, it contains arithmetic. When you go further, you find that the figures 1, 2, 3, 4 are the foundations of arithmetic. Then, when you see those, you find that there's another foundation, and that is logic. So, Russell and Whitehead in Cambridge, they decided to reduce mathematics to logic. They decided to reduce mathematics to logic. And they wrote a book, 603 pages long.
wow.
And found that the book was faulty. The book contained a fault, and a fault that could not be mended.
Wow.
Now, when I returned from England, I was an engineer. I did engineering with some interest in pure maths and some interest in algebra and some interest in number theory. I never got any chance to teach engineering. They didn't have anybody to teach algebra, so they asked me whether I could help. So I taught algebra. From there, I went to number theory. So what happened is this. The Oxford University Press was still there with Titi Cholaru of teacher training fame. And Cambridge University Press was still there with Christopher Okigbo.
The poet.
The poet. The poet. Lovely poems with very, very, very evocative poems.
Mm.
So he was a very good friend of mine.
No, Bertrand Russell, sir. And
No,
did you come across Principia Mathematica? Because there is so much myth about Principia Mathematica.
Yes, I came, that's what I'm telling you. Okigbo, the poet, gave me a copy of Principia Mathematica.
Wow.
It's in this library. He said,
wow.
Victor, I'm sure you are the only one in this country who can read this book.
Yeah, because they told us nobody could read and understand the book. That's why I'm asking about it.
He told me. So I began Principia Mathematica. It's a system. Then a fault was found in the book in 1931. A fault was found in the book.
Wow.
Really, a fault was found in the book. The fault was found by a 30-year-old.
20-year-old.
A 30-year-old man. This is the title of the book. Gödel's proof.
Wow.
Gödel proved that Principia Mathematica has has an unrectifiable fault. Unrectifiable fault. So I stopped reading it after about 200 pages.
Wow.
Moved on to Dele, with Professor Ogumala and I, when he was chairman of the president of the Nigerian Academy of Sciences, which we read. The proposition goes as follows. Any system of logic which is sufficiently rich to contain elementary arithmetic must contain at least one proposition which is neither provable nor unprovable. I repeat it. Any system of logic which is sufficiently rich to contain the rudiments of elementary arithmetic must contain at least one proposition which is neither proven or which can neither be proved nor unproven. So this means that there are propositions which are true but which cannot be proved. But that led people to run to religion.
Yeah, that's where I was going to, what I was going to ask, sir. That
yes, poking on.
Proven, yeah, but we did this in philosophy when we're talking about cosmology and all that. So the uncaused cause. What is your theory about the uncaused cause?
The thing is that not everything can be proved. Truth and proof are completely different categories, as Kant will say. Proof,
Immanuel Kant.
yes, Immanuel Kant. Proof is a process from certain axioms to certain destinations. You take something for granted, you adopt a procedure, and you come to a conclusion. That conclusion is then said to have been proved from the propositions which were taken as axioms. That's proof. You prove something using something as your hypothesis. But truth is not a process. Is a proof, and truth is a quality of a statement. For example, something could be true, and then something could be true, but the proof could be correct, but the proof of the thing may be invalid. All right, what is today?
18th of July.
No, the day of the week.
Saturday.
Today is Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Listen to this carefully. If today is Saturday, no, if today is a Sunday, then tomorrow will be a Monday. Listen carefully again. If today is a Sunday, tomorrow will be a Monday. That is a valid proof. But neither the proposition nor its conclusion is true.
Wow.
If today is Tuesday, then tomorrow is Wednesday. But today is not Tuesday. Therefore, tomorrow cannot be.
Cannot be Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Ah.
Assume that but today is not even. Therefore, your conclusion that today is invalid. That proof is not valid. To start with, because the hypothesis is wrong, this is not correct. So, what happened was that a man of 30 in Princeton called Dele, he then published 2 papers, one on consistency, and he proved that this is the proof here, it's the whole textbook, Dele's proof.
Wow. Only a few.
He proved that, he proved some other things. He wrote only about 3 papers to become a professor. So Alfred Whitehead and Russell began the work of reducing mathematics to logic.